I had the confidence on the sports field, but in the business arena, I had clothing business that I put a lot of time and energy into. And in the end, I think at best we broke even, but it was a struggle.
Life after sport is very, very difficult for a lot of guys, like transitioning that mindset, that shifting everything and all right, what do I do after sports is done? How did you go through that process? How did you navigate through all of that?
Find your passion, find out where you want to spend your time and energy, and work backwards off that. So if it's not on the sporting field, if it's in the business arena, I would say find out where your passion is. Business can be a lot of different things. Find out where the opportunity is there that you think you could excel. Where's your skill set? Let's look at the best in the business. Let's look at people who are, parallel to our industry, but doing something very similar. Let's see how they're doing it. And let's write down all the good ideas that we see. And let's see if we can recreate that on a, cost and budget conscious type of, basis. If the fire isn't burning as bright as it needs to be, I would say take small steps. I really learned that any business that you're going to start, you got to start with distribution, because you can have a great clothing lineup, but if you don't have anywhere to sell it or anybody that's looking to buy it, you don't have a business. You just have a great setup of clothing. My passion was generated out of necessity in some ways.
Welcome to another episode of The Mind of a CEO. First of all, like, subscribe, share this to your mama, your cousins. You get the point. On today's episode, I've been around a lot of leaders, team leaders, coaches, all of them. And our guest today has to be one of the most charismatic, humble leader I've ever come across. He's a family man, a professional polo player, and a serial entrepreneur. Let's welcome Fred Mannix. Hey, brother, thank you so much for taking the time to share some gems with us today, man.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Andreas.
Thank you, brother. So for the audience that don't know who you are, could you just tell us, first of all, just give us a backstory of how we ended up here in your office? Like, how did you grow up? Like, give us an update of everything.
Well, I'm born and raised here in Calgary, Canada, and I'm happy to call Calgary my home. We still have that can-do Western Canadian attitude thriving through my veins. And we're here in the Accelerate offices. We started this project 6 years ago, and we're looking to be Canada's leader in the alternative portfolio solution space. We got a couple strategies on the TSX. We run managed accounts. Pretty much if it's a hedge fund strategy, we're looking into it. And yeah, I'm really happy that we can do this podcast here today with you.
That was awesome, man. I love that. I like when I ask guests about that intro. Everyone goes kind of like they hover through everything, but I love that. That was awesome. Now, could you tell me, you grew up in Calgary, right? Born and raised in Calgary. Tell us how you grew up, your serial entrepreneur. What sparked all of this drive in you?
Well, I was quite lucky to be the oldest boy in the family, and I come from a wealthy family here. So I grew up on a farm south of the city, and I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder being the youngest in my peer group. I always liked horses and polo, and polo, obviously is a sport that's not very common for all the reasons that we know. But I didn't want it to go to waste, and being the youngest in my peer group, I excelled ahead, and over a period of time, by kind of time I was 15 or 16, I was the best player in my peer group, even though some of these guys were 3 or 4 years older than me. And I saw a real path forward. And when I was 17, I received my first invitation to go to Dallas and play professionally. And we had a very successful month of polo there in October. And after that, I knew that the world was my oyster and I could really travel around on my handicap, my polo handicap. And that's exactly what I did. So I've played all over the world. I've played in England. I've played in Australia, South Africa, been to Argentina, you name it. If it's got a polo field there, I've probably been there. And I've had a really great career, a lot of fun. I've reached the pinnacle of the sport, and I met a lot of interesting people along the way. Type A personalities that were used to getting what they want, whether that be in the business arena or on the polo field. Had some great coaches. Like anything in life, I had to work hard to get to where I am, and I think it was a combination of not wanting to let my parents down, not wasting the opportunity that was presented to me. And I just naturally loved playing the team game of polo. So I think when you combine that all together, that gave me a pretty good base for what I'll call the second life of Fred. And that's really around investment management. We started here in Calgary in 2019. I joined the Accelerate team that already had a few funds up and running. And it's been a great partnership. Like any good team, we're well-rounded. We're a team of 9. Same investment team from the start. There's 5 of us on the investment committee. So that shows unity and team spirit, all pulling in the same direction. And we're all shareholders in Accelerate. So we all have something to gain from this entity going very well. And last year we were finally cash flow positive. So, 5 years in the trenches, not easy, some difficult times in the market. But, I'm proud of us. I'm proud of the team, and it didn't happen by accident. I think all of us brought, unique skills and intellect to the table, and we combined that to be a driving force ahead in the Canadian investment sphere.
Wow. There's so many questions I have there, like so many questions, but I'm going to bring it back a little bit. Let's talk about your drive in excelling in polo. You say you were the youngest in your peer group. How does one have that drive? Because I played sports too, right? How did you, what sparked you? You say you don't want to let your parents down, but as an individual, right? You say you came from a wealthy family. What really sparked that drive? Because I would love the audience out there watching right now this could be duplicated, right? So what do you think you did? What were you reading? What were you watching? Who were your influence? Who were your mentors? How did you get into that space? Like, I want to be the best. I want to be great at this sport so that I can go professionally.
I'm not sure what the exact point was, but I knew from a young age that I didn't want to waste the opportunity. And I think I saw maybe some of my older peers not as serious about trying to play polo professionally. And at the time, it wasn't for me to say buckle down and make it happen. But I just saw that as being a little bit too loose and not concentrated on, trying to be the best that you can be. And I always had that drive as a sportsman to push myself. And as a sportsman, at a young age, I had great mentors, like whether it was from my baseball coach. I still remember his last name, Coach Morris. Excellent. We went undefeated that season. Why? Because he made us believe. He organized us. Like, he gave us the tools. And then when, in the heat of battle, he was able to coach us and get the best out of us. So I think, even before I started playing polo, like having good mentorship and strong coaches that believed in me, helped me feel that even though I was the youngest, I could rise to the occasion and play with the older kids. And once you started playing with the older kids, there was no turning back. It was just like, okay, like if I want to be there, I don't want to be the worst player on the field. So you got to ride more. You got to stick and ball more. You got to, think about what's working, what's not working, and then adapt and adjust. And I think probably one of the unique things about polo is, you got to come from a wealthy background really to access it. And I saw some of those kind of wealthy peers of mine not focused on it. It was like present, but it wasn't a passion of theirs. And that always didn't sit, great with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be like that at all. So I think that's also gave me some drive to say, you have the opportunity here, like your dad and mom will support you all the way. So don't waste that. Like, treat that deadly serious and try and make the most of it. And I can say honestly that I gave it a really good swing. I mean, I reached all the way to the top, and I have an interesting peer group that I think would back me up and say, hey, this guy was a player.
Yes. No, that's awesome. Yeah. Making it to the pinnacle of that sport is tremendous. So what do you think your parents did right And I hate using that word did right because, as parents, we know what we know and we will move forward. But this is a selfish question for myself, right? Because what measures or how did they help you to be that man that you became as a polo player? Because everyone was from wealthy families, like you said, right? But you pushed through and you didn't want to how did your parents instill that, like, believe in you and trust so that you could trust in them to not let them down?
Yeah, I think it was being associated with some top professionals right from the start. Like my father played at the highest level as an amateur in the US Open, and some of those professionals that he was around mentored me early on and said, like, you can probably make it if you concentrate. And so, they started instilling learnings on, like, how to ride horses in a more efficient manner, how to train horses, how to be a better team captain. Because remember, think about like LeBron James when he went and played for the Cavs when he was like 19 years old. He was the captain because he was the best player, but he didn't know how to make the team perform in a way that it would be optimized. So it takes a while to figure out how to optimize a team, and it can't be just told to you. You got to like learn it. And how did he learn? He learned from having a top coach. He learned from having top GM. He learned from having veterans around him. Maybe not as skillful or physically dominant as him, but mentally, they prepared him, saying, like, King James, you are and you will be. But, think of this. Think about when you're not having a great shooting night, you got to pass the ball. Be a great passer. Be a great defender. And so, I'm obviously a long way away from LeBron James, but I utilize him because he was very dominant, right at a young age.
Yes.
And, I was dominant at a young age as well. So I had to learn how to use my team. And the way I learned that was through strong coaching, strong mentorship, strong relationships with other professionals. And I think my parents made a really smart decision early on to step back and be like, well, what does coach say?
Or step back.
Yeah, I mean, they were there to support me, emotionally and monetarily to get going. But they really let the professionals take over and say, like, where, which team or which league or which competition should, myself, Fred, be in, and how are we going to succeed in that endeavor.
Wow. Okay. Learning to step back and allow the professionals do what they do and also the power of mentorship. That's what I'm hearing a lot, right? The power of mentorship. Now, with all of that said, I played sports too, and played for the University of Calgary, played football, and life after sport is very, very difficult for a lot of guys, like transitioning that mindset, that shifting everything and, all right, what do I do after sports is done? How did you go through that process? How did you navigate through all of that?
I would say I'm still navigating it. It's not easy. Mentally, I feel super sharp, and physically, I feel, just as in great shape as I was 15 years ago. I know I'm a bit slower. I know I'm not as like powerful as I once was. So my mind and my heart, though, still makes me want to like drive forward and like still see if I can reach my ceiling. But I completely understand what you're saying, because sport is cruel in some ways that often you don't decide when you want to stop. It's just the sport decides for you and the world keeps spinning.
It's like a bad breakup.
It's like a bad breakup, and it never goes too well for, the retiring athlete. What happened to me is I was over playing in England in the Gold Cup for a team called Calingrakis, and the principal and owner was Mr. Eduardo Carmignac. And he had an investment company in France called Carmignac Investments. And at the time, he was managing 70 billion euros, and he was having a great time playing polo.
Did he say 70 billion?
Yeah,
euros?
70 billion euros.
You cannot just say that and just cruise over. You got to take a pause, let the room breathe a little bit. 70 billion euros.
Yeah, so he's a legend in the investment game, and obviously, the name of the company is his last name, so he had, was tremendously influential in its success. And I said to him, I applaud your entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm so happy that you can come to England and play. And not that the expense didn't matter, but it wasn't impactful to him, like in a way that was negative at all. It was like, I want to do things professionally. I want to do them well. I want to have a great time. And if that's how much it costs, that's how much it costs, because my business is doing great and I can do it. So I thought that was wonderful. And since I had the love for capital markets since from a young age, and I've been managing my own family portfolio for a while, I asked him, I said, like, how can I be like you in the business arena? Because, you're the man. And he said, well, you're starting a little bit late in life and you're probably not going to want to go through the big banks. So I'd suggest reaching out to a startup independent that shares the same values around your investment strategy, because that way you'll streamline the process. And you need help around the back office, middle office, and front office support, and you know nothing about compliance, and you don't know how to enter the industry. So that's exactly what I did. I put out the search for a firm. I interviewed with a few around Canada, and I really settled on Accelerate because when I met the principal, Julian Klimachko, and the founder, I knew that he was super dedicated. He had a strong entrepreneurial spirit. He was very smart. He's a CFA charter holder, and he had qualities and skills that I don't possess. And I knew we'd be complementary. I didn't know we'd be so synergistic, which is, obviously a pleasant surprise when you start doing business with anybody. And he could solve a lot of the pain points that I needed help with on that back office, front office, middle office support to get going. And it's been a really, really good, I would say marriage. Like, we really complement each other well. And we've taken Accelerate from, less than 10 million in assets, and we're coming up to 200 million today.
Damn.
And that's not easy in the Canadian banking industry and wealth management industry here, because as you know, the Canadians have 6 major choices for banks. They control 93% of the assets, and they make it difficult for independents and new entrants to come into the market. So I'd say we've come a long way. We have a long way to go, but I think the next 6 years are going to be a lot more fun than the first 6 years.
Wow. There's so much gems being dropped right now. If you're not where you want to be, and you're still in the sports, you're still playing the game, you haven't figured out what you have to do. He just said that he's still figuring it out, and they're managing $200 million right now. Bring out a pen and paper and start taking notes, because I just feel like there's going to be gems left and right. So if you could break that down from, you found someone, you were attracted to his success, right? If you could break it down into, just simplify it into like 3 steps. Somebody right now, let's say they're in the CFL, right? And they're like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life after. 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, what should they do right away?
Well, I'd say while you still have star power and a physical body and mind that's like super sharp, because playing in the CFL is no joke. I mean, it is a grind out there.
Oh, yeah.
So you're in the best shape of your life. You're mentally ready for any challenge, and you're receiving top mentorship if it's from, Coach Huff or, whoever's running the ship there today. I would say think a little bit further ahead, because the next game is not for sure. It's brutal out there on the body, and there's business decisions being made that you might not be part of. So while you're sharp and in good shape, find out where your passion is after football. That might be around selling. And I say selling because people are always selling something, whether it's a service, whether it's an idea, whether it's a product. If you can sell, you're in good shape. And I say that in that, yeah, I'm in the financial service industry and we have portfolio solutions. But if I wasn't, I'd probably be I'd look to the market and find out where's the highest margin industry. Like maybe it's in selling like diamonds or rubies, or I have no idea. Today it'd be some sort of AI software. But find out where your passion is, and if you can take some courses on selling or YouTube, or start following some guys on Instagram that are top sales guys, it'll be a bit slow to start, but you'll start morphing your mind into how to use different types of vocabulary, different types of language, and you'll start understanding that if you're selling a Jaguar from the Ford dealership, or if you're selling a B2B business solution, what you're really trying to understand is, what does your client, customer, prospect need? And if you understand what they need, then you're going to be way ahead of the game. And think about your own situation. If you have a family, how impractical it would be to buy a 2-door sports car, because you can't haul around the kids. So there's no point if I walk into a dealership for me to be looking or even suggested, hey, come take a look at the 2-door sports car, because that just doesn't fly. Where if you know, and you ask a little bit of discovery questions like, Andreas, how you doing? I'm Fred. Welcome. Are you a family man? If you say yes, I know right away we're going 4 doors. Great. So you can take out half the inventory that doesn't make any sense and just say, great. Oh, I think we should go maybe look at the new top of the line 4-door coupe. Do you like a car, or do you like a truck, or do you like an SUV, or do you like a van? And between one of those 4 answers, you're going to know to focus on those 4 sectors. So sales, I think, is underrated. We sometimes pigeonhole people into roles. And if you can sell, you can go anywhere, because a CEO is selling to his shareholders. He's selling to his employees. He's selling to his service providers. He's selling to his clients, because we all need clients. But he's selling to lots of different people in his organization and stakeholders to get them to do what he needs them to do.
Man, guys, are you listening to this? So CFL guys, find what you're passionate about, right? Develop your skills in sales. And what would be the last point?
I would say once the lights go out and you're not entering the field anymore, don't let go of the physical training, because
oh, hold on. That was a bar. That was a bar right there. Okay, continue.
Yeah, don't let go of the physical training, because a strong body is produced from a strong mind. When you don't want to train and you still train, you feel 150% better than the day that you woke up and you trained. When you do something that's tough and you pass through it, your body tells your mind, hey, we did it, we can do it, we will do it again. And then the next day when you feel a bit better, because for whatever reason you're feeling better, that next day training's even easier. So, you're building on, the good days, but the bad days that you don't feel like doing it and you still do it, that's when you really start making big strides ahead, because mentally, you can do it and you're going to push ahead and you're going to do it no matter what.
Bro, we can mic drop this entire episode at this point. If you cannot transform your life or be a better CEO from listening to that little bit we've heard, like, hey, only God can help at that point, that is so incredible. I can tell you're very passionate about selling, like the sales process, and a lot to it, because it helps you be a better leader. There's so many questions about sales that I want to ask you, but what could you tell us on how you became so good at selling or sales in general?
Well, I'd say, I don't know if I'm so good at it. I'd say I'm learning every day. Like, I'm dead serious about following the right people on Instagram and YouTube, because you can pick up little nuggets from them. And think about, the last time that you walked into a store and you weren't going to buy anything, but the lady or the gentleman who helped you, they were like warm and friendly, but didn't pressure you, but were knowledgeable about the products. And then, maybe something did catch your eye and they said, oh, I understand, maybe this could be of interest. And they knew exactly what the product was. They said, this makes sense. Or they said, you know what, actually, but, for your body type, maybe this sweater, we should stick away, not go with the cardigan because it's open breasted or whatever. So I would say what makes me passionate about it is really actually finding the result in the end. Like, can we actually come to an area where we both meet in the middle? Yeah. And for you, it makes sense. And for me, it makes sense. And if I find a solution that works for you, naturally, that's going to make me feel good, because I did my job. I found something that was, easy for you to say yes to. And I think that's what really makes it fun is, when you get that proof of concept, saying like, look, we did it together. That's the way it's got to be in sales. It's got to be like, hey, we're going to go together on this mission. Yeah. And some people, they put up the stiff arm right away. They give you the Heisman, like, we're not going to do business, but that just means maybe not right now. You know, if you cultivate that relationship and you're warm and you're the good old Canadian boy that you're expected to be, and you leave things, you know, in a logical finishing environment, you might run into that person, you know, 2-3 years down the line, like I have done. And they're like, you know what, Andreas, I remember that time that we got together. It wasn't the right time because I wasn't in the right spot, but now I am. And can you tell me again what you do? And you will already have gained so much ground in actually getting to the end of your sales goal because you've earned their trust, because you behaved in a logical and fair way to them through your previous encounters.
So as a CEO, Fred, how can one in a leadership position sell the dream to their team in a way that motivates them to step up to the level that we see them to be, or to reach their full potential? What are some tactics that you use or systems that you have in place to do so?
Yeah, that's a great question. How to get your team to perform.
Yeah.
And what I try and do is I look for the market leaders and I try and find out who's doing it the best. And I try and understand like how they're doing it so well. And so, for example, in the Polo side of my business, I'm selling a lot of horses. And what have I looked to? I've looked to, well, people in the racing industry, they've been doing it a lot longer than people in the polo industry. So how are they presenting the new stallions? How are they presenting like their auctions? How are they presenting what they're doing in their breeding operation to the market? And so I've taken some of those ideas and incorporated them into our Alegria breeding program. And then within the polo universe, there's a couple breeders out there that are utilizing videography, drone technology, music, all spliced together to create these short reels. And it's not that they're selling any of the horses. What are they doing? They're defining a narrative around their product and breed of animals. They're saying like, okay, I have, you know, this is the type of energy and this is the type of horse that I want to celebrate. And they get their own brand through that type of promotion where people know, like, for example, Alegria, we're the rosa color, we're magenta. Everybody will know that my team, Alegria, that's our colors, just through the visual signaling. And then we try and do things a little bit different on the videography than somebody else because everyone's looking for their own unique identity. But how we started, as I said to my team, let's look at the best in the business. Let's look at people who are, you know, parallel to our industry, but doing something very similar. Let's see how they're doing it. And let's write down all the good ideas that we see. And let's see if we can recreate that on a, you know, cost and budget conscious type of, you know, basis. I'm not saying, you know, we're making major motion pictures here, but I'm saying I want to have a professional product. And so can we do that on the budget allowed?
Wow. I love that. I love that. I like how you're giving real, because sometimes when people watch podcasts and stuff like that, you could get a lot of information, but they're not proven, you know? And I love the statements you're making right now. You're giving real life scenarios, like looking at what is already working out there. How can we duplicate that in our own stratosphere, right? How can we make that happen for us, right? And it drives belief. Speaking about belief, is how do you cultivate self-belief in your ability and your vision?
Well, that's a really good question because I didn't always have the confidence.
I find it hard to believe, man.
I had the confidence on the sports field, but in the business arena, you know, I had some desire to be an entrepreneur, and I had a couple stumbles out the gate. You know, and it wasn't smooth sailing. I had a clothing business that I put a lot of time and energy into, and in the end, I think at best we broke even. But you know, it was a struggle. And I didn't understand the distribution game. I didn't understand that the retailers control the shelf. And so that was tough. And I learned a lot of things there, what not to do. But I really learned that any business that you're going to start, you got to start with distribution. Because you can have a great clothing lineup, but if you don't have anywhere to sell it or anybody that's looking to buy it, you don't have a business. You just have a great setup of clothing. And that's very similar to what we're doing here at Accelerate. Like, we can have great risk adjusted strategies that are functioning well in the marketplace, but if we don't have any clients, we don't have a business. Wow. So the Confidence, I think, in the business arena started a little bit at looking at some of the people that I idolized. Like I like rap music, and so a guy like 50 Cent, I saw him like really navigating the business arena like a champion, and I was like, man, this guy can do it. Like his power and his self-motivation. Also, I think, him saying like there's no way back was also something that resonated with me because of my polo career. Just being like, there's no way I'm taking a step back or not completely focused on this to work, at a top high level. That resonated with me. And then there were some other artists, that I think it just seemed to resonate with me. They were like, there's no chance we're even taking one step backwards. Like we might not be moving forward today, but we're definitely not moving backwards. And we're not moving forward because for whatever reason, somebody's in my way and I haven't quite figured out how to either, go over them, under them, around them, through them. But somehow I'm going to get to the other side, but it'll be, soon, hopefully today, but if not today, soon. And that type of mentality is contagious as well. Once you start, seeing like, I am going to not get tired. I'm not going to quit. So if you don't get tired and you don't quit, you can't fail.
Man, I love this. I like that we're quoting 50 Cent, get rich or die trying. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So you talked about, okay, that helped you build your confidence up, right? What role as optimism or faith played in your decision-making process?
I think optimism, it has to be in some ways cultivated. You're optimistic and it has to be genuine because you're not going to fail. Like you can fail in like business or you can fail in certain ways, but you'll fail, but you'll learn a lot so that the next time you come back a little stronger. Does it hurt to lose, monetary type of possessions and, cash on business deals that don't go well? Absolutely. I'm deadly scared of it. I mean, that's got to be the number one. You got to be scared because capital is always scarce. But you have to be optimistic that you know what you're doing. And that optimism, people can feel it. They know whether it's genuine or not. And so, I branched out into things I was passionate about. Capital markets, understanding who's winning, who's losing on Wall Street. Why? Because I actually like to find out. I actually like to know. I actually like, take for example, Nike. They've been having a really tough time lately, their share price anyways. Why? Because the market is highly competitive. It's saturated. They make most of their products in China. They're going to be getting all kinds of tariffs. They've had, some executive turnover. They've done a few things that, hasn't quite resonated with their target market. Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons why I just gave you quickly why the stock price of Nike is not doing great. Now, flip the coin on the other side. If you look at another company like NVIDIA, why is their stock price up like 1,000% in the last, 5 years? Well, they're making these GPU units that are powering, the AI revolution. So naturally, they should be winning business. Why? Because we're seeing more and more adoption around that. So that's what I get excited about. And that's why I know I'm going to have some sort of value in the investment management space because I'm passionate about it. And whether my thesis is right or wrong, I'm going to be optimistic that I know what I'm talking about because I'm well studied on it. I can be wrong, but I'm well studied on it. I can tell you like factually what's going to happen. Maybe my thesis is wrong with those facts, but I can tell you absolutely like what is happening, and that's going to give me confidence that I know what I'm talking about.
And that's how you cultivate that genuine optimism.
Absolutely.
Right? From studying it, and that's what's going to fire that. Like, yes, we're going to land on the moon. We're going to get there, right? But how we're going to get there, we don't quite know. But I have that optimism that it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. It's much like what you're doing in the gym. You're like, listen, if we put in the time and we do the right exercises, like I can't guarantee that we're going to get, to the 100% result that we want, but we're going to get pretty close.
Yeah, 100%, because I've studied it.
And I know it. And I've seen people do it, and we're going to do it together. And let's start like right away. Let's go.
Let's go. Come on. I love it, man. So this is a very interesting one, and I'm curious to know what if you did this when you play sports or in your new career right now. You're still playing, by the way. So do you ever use affirmation, visualization or any kind of self-talk to reinforce your goals? Like, do you do any of those kind of things?
Yeah, definitely. When I'm playing polo, I visualize like the team I'll be playing against and like some of their like what's their demeanor on the field, like what kind of player are they, so I can think about how to counter that. And in the business arena, when I'm laying in bed, I mean, it sounds strange, but I talk to myself a little bit. I'll kind of be running through conversations in my head, and every once in a while my wife will be like, Fred, you're talking to yourself. I did it last night actually, so that's why it's fresh in my mind. But I think
Like out loud.
yeah, but it just comes out naturally because I have these conversations going in my mind. And what I'm actually doing is I'm practicing for probably like tomorrow, like that conversation that I'm going to have, or I'm practicing for, that sales meeting that we're going to get together, how I can, be measured, but factual, warm enough, but firm on the offering. And that takes practice. I mean, think of it, if you're in the CFL, I mean, how are you going to, have 1,000-yard receiving season? We got to go out there and practice.
You got to practice.
And you got to feel it so that when come game day, you're ready to rock.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I knew I was going to do that because I practiced all that.
Exactly. We're all not Allen Iverson that doesn't practice. The rest of the population has to practice.
Yeah, I mean, the more I practice, the better I get. I promise you that.
Exactly. Now, I agree with that. And I think that's why sports is so important for development, for that side of knowing how to go through life. Because I feel like sports kind of mirrors life in some way, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And sports has a championship trophy at the end. And there's one winner, but there's a lot of losers. And so learning to lose graciously, while it's still at the same time not losing focus and saying, next year I'm coming back stronger. I'm going to be in better shape. I'm going to be like more mentally prepared to like take the inputs from my mentors, from my coaches, from the training staff, and then also build that team atmosphere. Because we've all been on a winning team, whether, it's, your flag football team or you're playing in, the Super Bowl in the NFL. We've all been on that winning team at some point in your life. And think of that feeling. Everyone was united. Everyone was with the same vision. Everyone was going together. And it seemed like there was no way you guys weren't going to win.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's part of making it in the business arena, too. When you're building a team you're working in an office with your peers, I mean, the winning organizations, what do they have? They got that team spirit and that clarity of vision and the drive to go and succeed. Clarity
of vision and the drive to succeed. You talked about you took the question out of my mind though. Your baseball coach, right? That was an amazing mentor, and he led you guys to the championship. What were the key things reflecting on that championship season that you guys had? If you could just say, all right, we had this, we had this, we had this, that led to the championship?
Yeah, so Coach Morris, he was one of my first coaches in sports. We were playing baseball here in Calgary, and Coach Morris always showed up looking professionally dressed. So he looked like a professional, even though we were young boys. He demanded respect and attention in his practices, so there was no fooling around. And then he would grab us each one by one at points through the season and say, like, you can do this. Like, I think you're ready to play like the shortstop position, or like we need you to like step up and like protect second base on the overthrow. And so he had a good way of creating a very strong team spirit right from the start by looking professionally, treating people with respect because he was the coach, and then third, grabbing us individually and saying, like, I need you to do this well. I know you can do it, so do it.
Wow. So he created the environment by showing up professionally. He knew how to talk to you guys, right? And he also led from the front by being respectful to you guys so that you guys gave that back in return.
Definitely. But I can still remember the way he dressed. I remember was impressed that a coach would come every time in his uniform, ready to go, on time. And he demanded that in return. Come ready to rock. It's practice time. Be there on time. ready to, dressed, with everything you need so that we can utilize the time together effectively and efficiently. And it paid off because we didn't lose a single season. We didn't lose a single game that season. And I still remember Coach Morris, and I can still see his face as a young boy.
That is so impactful. That's huge. That's huge. Now, this is a sidebar question here, and I was just curious about this. Would you say you hate losing more, or you love winning more? Which one do you lean towards?
I would like to say that I love winning more. I love winning more because I've been on a lot of winning teams, and it's just so sweet when everyone puts the time in. And that's everyone from, the trainers, the vets, the shoers, the coaches, the support staff, the grooms, the players' wives, the girlfriends, the uncles, the grandfathers, the mothers. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people that want to see you succeed, but you really only can do it on the field. And the joy and the energy that you bring by being successful is transmitted to everyone around you. Everyone enjoys that moment. Everyone feels like they earn that moment because a lot of people have been sacrificing, whether it's time, energy, emotional support. Not easy. I mean, we're traveling all around the world and the family's coming with you. So everyone's fully invested, even if they're not on the field at that time.
Okay. Now, are you one of those people, one of those athletes, because you're very driven, you were the youngest in your peer group, you grew up to be the best, you still playing at a professional level. Are you one of those people like after winning, you're thinking, all right, on to the next one? Or are you thinking, are you taking the time to soak in the win and absorb, be aware of the surrounding and the joy and all the great stuff? Because winning is very sweet when it takes place, right?
I would say that there was probably a transition in my life about when I turned 30, when winning started getting a lot harder. Or maybe I was 28 or 27, because I wasn't catching the other guys by surprise anymore. It was like a known entity and just tough to win at the top. And so it became tougher to win. And that's when I started seeing like, this is going to be tougher to win. Like you're playing at the top level, whether it's in England or Florida or Argentina. And that's when I really started enjoying the winning a lot more, like when it did come, because I saw how tough it was to do. And I think earlier in my career, we're winning just simply because I had the fire, the energy, and the fury. And somehow we just made it happen as, young players, and having the right mentors and coaches around me. They knew how to utilize me in the right way. Mm-hmm. And it just seemed like, okay, this will just keep on going, and then
you thought that was life.
Yeah, I thought that was life. So I would say that after about 30, the wins and the trophies we lifted, I took a lot more time to enjoy that. And a good example is I started keeping all the jerseys from the tournaments that we won. And so I don't have some from like before I was 25, and I should have kept those. But, you live and learn. And I still have a pretty decent wardrobe of some jerseys from all over the world.
That's awesome, man. That's great. That's a great life lesson right there that I'm gonna put and keep for sure. What specialized knowledge or skills have you like used to get to your success? Like what specialized knowledge you like, this has definitely led me to be successful as a polo player or in your new business venture right now at Accelerate?
Yeah, I think it goes back to being determined and just saying like there's no quit. Like once you start something, you can iterate and you can adjust. But if you really want something, you go and get it. And a good example for me was getting my chartered investment manager's designation, and it allows me to trade other people's capital on a discretionary basis. Why I say that is because it was a bit foreign to me. I hadn't been in school in like 15 years, and I had to go get this designation. So that means opening up the book again. And I remember looking at the computer thinking, am I going to sign up for this course, order the books, pay all this money, and then not finish? And I was like, no, if I hit the go button here, I'm going to do it. And there was not one point ever during that process where I thought like, I'm not going to complete this.
Oh, no way.
It was no way. It was like, I will write that exam and I will get the CIM. And that made the studying not as tough because I was like, for sure, you're going to pass. You just got to finish these books.
Wow. I love that mentality. The get rich or die trying. Hopefully we don't get attacked for copyright or whatever over here. No, that's good. It's so interesting, like hearing about your story, your journey, and just how things have gone and navigated through. But you said something about determination, right? And it got me thinking, because in my line of work, I come across a lot of people that say they lack motivation, or in other words, determination, right? To achieve what they know would help them feel better and experience life from a better perspective. What would you say to someone out there right now that is struggling with that? You know, because you have that drive already. You've had it since you were young, right? You've had the right mentors around you. But for someone that hasn't had that life experience that is poured into them, but they might have some hidden potential. They want it, but they don't really know how to want it more. How could they, what steps can they take, or what advice do you have for them that can push that drive, that motivation to a higher level so that they can do the things they need to do to get what they want?
Everyone has their own path. And I would say the intensity of that drive is somewhat determined how honest you are with yourself. And I say that because I have big dreams and I know that some of them will be achievable and I know some of them are stretch dreams. But if the fire isn't burning as bright as it needs to be, I would say take small steps that's achievable and then just stick to it. Because getting quick wins and easy wins is important to build on your confidence. And I'll give a good example myself. I've always been like a heavier, bigger guy. I like to eat. I like to have some fun at night, have some beers and some wine. But I had to make a choice like about a year ago and just stop eating so much if I wanted to be physically strong and fit. And it was tough. Like it was tough because I was lying to myself every day saying like, oh, you're making a change, when I was like, I'd cheat all the time. And I just had to come to a point where I looked myself in the mirror and I'm like, no, you're just not going to eat white bread anymore, for example. Just stop it. Just don't do it anymore. If it's on the table, just don't eat it. And it started with like a little thing like that. Just like stop eating white bread. Just keep on doing everything else you're doing. But once I mastered like not doing that, I was like, okay, like maybe I don't need to drink chocolate milk in the morning. Like I don't need that. It's like, it tastes good, but you don't need it. And slowly I just started like refining the diet a little bit by bit. I'm still working on it. I'm not, saying I'm perfect, but I would say the easy win was then the next thing was more attainable. Because I mean, white bread doesn't even taste that good. Like you don't need it. Like if you are looking at it, like what is this actually? It's not like an amazing like dessert that your mom made you. It's not like an amazing, something that you made in the oven that came fresh. It's usually like pre-packaged, like made whenever. It's probably not even made that day by the baker. It's made in some factory somewhere. So it's easier to start there because I knew that wasn't good for me and I didn't need it, but I liked it because I was ingrained in my old ways. So I would say if you're struggling with the motivation, specifically around training in your line of business, I would say let's go for the quick win. Like if you can only, walk 10 minutes on the treadmill, let's start with 10 minutes, but the next time you come, we're going 11. Can you do that? And if you can go 11, the next time you come, can we go, instead of walking, can we go a light jog at like 5 minutes? And you'd be surprised at the way the mind reacts to getting quick, easy wins because you can do it. And if you don't think you can do it, I'd recommend listening to a guy, David Goggins.
Oh, yeah.
He's had a transformational story. He is inspirational because he is the real life human Terminator. This guy changed his whole life around, and he did it mentally before he did it physically.
So true. I read his book and ran my first half marathon and then did a full afterwards. But I think that is a big lesson right there, right? So if you're struggling with motivation, it's so out there. A lot of people, I'm not just motivated. I've worked all day. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to feel good. And another tip, you talked about the guys that are retiring from sport. The last tip you gave was don't let go of the physical training, right? So start small, right? Don't try to bite off the big chunk, right? Start small, get some easy small wins consistently. That was a great one. I love that. Now, how do you leverage creative thinking to solve problems or innovate in your business right now?
Yeah, so usually when I'm looking to solve problems is I write down, I'll have like a question and period. Like I'll say like, what are we actually trying to solve? Because I'm usually not solving them on my own. So we get together as a team, or I get together with, people that I can bounce some ideas with. And I start writing down what we're talking about to really identify like the who, what, when, where, how, and why type of the problem we're trying to solve. And I try and look at things in unconventional manners, because usually if you have a problem in front of you that you're having difficulty solving, conventional means aren't going to get you to where you want to go. Otherwise, you would have already done that and you wouldn't be having this strategy session. So try and break down like, what is the real obstacle in your path? Like it might be what you've identified already, something, but question that. Is that actually what's standing in your way? It might just be like somebody needs to give you permission to do something. And if you just ask in a logical way and explain what you're doing, then that problem or that obstacle goes away. So really identifying like, what is the true thing like that's in your way that you need to solve, I think helps bring out some pretty interesting discussions around what do you need to do. Now, from the, what I'll call writing all those things down type of phase, you're going to have, some people around you that can help you solve these problems, because that's really what the team is all about.
Exactly.
I have blind spots, and I have, defects in my character, and I have, blind spots that, I need to work on, and
Biases too.
yeah, and biases and, preconceived ideas that are faulty. So having a team around you can really help you problem solve and find some synergies that you didn't even know were there, because that's not the way you're hardwired.
Now, have you ever faced setbacks before in your life, like a rock bottom or a setback that you talked about the clothing business. If I knew you had one, I would have supported it, just so you know.
You're a good man.
Thank you. But have you ever faced setback before in your life that felt like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, or I don't know how I'm going to get through this? And if you have, if you could please share, if it's okay sharing here, and how did you get through it?
There's been a couple points in my life where I thought I'm going to have to change the way I'm operating. And specifically, it was, we had a family transition of the family group of companies about like 7 years ago. And that's also one of the reasons why I decided like after Polo, I'm going to have, some sort of career path where I can, sustain my lifestyle and feed the family, feed the horses. And I saw through the family transition of the family group of companies that there probably wasn't a place for me there, which was kind of disappointing. I mean, we have a successful business here in Calgary, but I just didn't see a way for me to satisfy like my entrepreneurial spirit and my drive, which was scary in one way, because what I'd always thought is like there would be a place for me in the group, and I will find, a fun place to work, and it'll be all good, and like we can all enjoy the upside as owners. But over time, I saw that vision dimming and becoming less and less of a reality. Also less of a reality because I just didn't see a way I could really be an entrepreneurial businessman in the community. It was like these businesses were already established. They already had their processes and procedures and policies and set management, and they were already operating in like mature industries. And I thought like, that's not going to satisfy me personally, where, it when I was a younger man, I thought, oh, that'll be sufficient for me. That'll be okay. But the older I grew, the more I realized I wanted to start my own project and my own path, my own venture. And that was scary because, that means there's no one really there to help pick you up if it doesn't work. And I can tell you what, this business, Accelerate, we flew pretty close to the ground when the world changed in March of 2020 because we couldn't generate any meetings with potential clients. We had 3 strategies in the market and we were having no meetings for weeks, months in a row. And that was scary because if you don't have, as we shared earlier, if you don't have clients, you don't have a business. And we somehow needed to get together with people. And so what do we have to do? We went from, buying coffees and going to lunches to saying, hey, can we host you for a Zoom meeting? Can we get together and send some PDFs back and forth? Like, what do we got to do so that at least, we're a known entity, you understand what we do. And if you like us, there might be a way for us to do something. So we had to completely shift our whole sales process, outreach program, marketing program on the fly, because what was traditionally working was not going to work at all anymore. And that was a scary moment because I'd, given up in one way working for the family business to focus on this new venture, Accelerate, and our sales and distribution process was completely not usable in the new world that everyone was adjusting to. So I would say that moment was pretty difficult, and I realized, that we were going to have to learn some skills. And that's really where I turned, my kind of sales hat on, and I started getting on YouTube. I started getting on Instagram. I started figuring out how people are doing it, in our industry, utilizing their vocabulary, trying to understand like their demeanor, trying to, match like their tonality. It's complex all of a sudden. It's not just like, hey, I have, a glass of water for you. If you're thirsty, come and buy it from me. That's not going to work. You got to be more in tune with like, what does Andreas need? If you're thirsty, like, let's talk about that. What do you like to drink? It's not a straightforward process. So yeah, there were some learnings there, and it was scary. Honestly, I remember a few times in the middle of the night being like, I've risked capital, I've risked my reputation, I've risked time, I've risked energy, and this is not for sure.
Wow. And that is being an entrepreneur right there, that fear. So what process, so you adopted some skills. Within that, how did you manage your mental health?
It was tough, honestly. When you're not sleeping well because you're worried about business, that's taxing and draining. So it wasn't that easy. What I would say is that, I'm a Pisces. We were talking about that earlier. So I'm a fish by nature.
February 19th.
Yeah, I'm cold-blooded. And so I was able to keep a calm facade on the outside, even though maybe like I was turning around internally. And I think that helped convey confidence like to my family unit, to my wife, to, people around me. And then also, I knew my colleagues were kind of feeling the same. Like we were in uncharted territory and uncharted waters, but you can't freak out, just like you can't freak out on the sports field. I'll never forget, I won't name him, but he knows who he is. We were qualifying one year in Argentina for our team in Alegria, and we were in the quali, the deciding game, do or die. If you don't win, your season's over. If you win, you play the Argentine Open. And we were down 1 or 2 goals with about like 2 minutes to go. And my teammate goes like, we're going to lose. And I go, we're going to lose if you freak out. So do your job.
Yes.
We ended up going to overtime and we won.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember it crystal clear. Just be calm, have faith, focus, and do it in the moment of truth. And we did.
Wow. So the power of also posturing yourself to receive that, to be in a position to take defense if you have to, or play offense if you have to, so to speak. You understand what I mean? Because you said you were calm on the outside, even though you were turning inside in the inside, right?
Absolutely.
No, that's very interesting. And think about my son. That's how he acts too. Because Yeah, you guys share a birthday. And anyways, side note, let's get back on topic here. Now, what habits do you practice to maintain your determination in moments like that? What habits do you, like you said, you have to be strong for everybody, your team, your family, right? Like, how do you then maintain your determination in those moments where when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, yo, this is scary?
I'd go back to, I use the gym like a sanctuary. I mean, I find it therapeutic in a lot of ways. I feel like I have a little bit of a cheat code on a lot of people though, because I've been playing polo professionally for a long time. And to be successful, you got to be physically fit. You have social pressure, peer pressure to be in good shape and in top shape. So I've been doing it a long time, and I enjoy the gym because it's quiet time for me. And I think, and I plan my day, and I think about, where I want to go. So I see the gym as providing kind of like that mental fortitude to power through on tough things, because it's not easy to pick up, a 50-pound dumbbell. Like, I challenge a lot of people out there. Yeah, it says 50 on it, but when was the last time you picked it up? It's not easy, I promise you. And I say that because I had to work my way up to that. Like, I haven't, traditionally used a lot of heavy weights. It's been more reactionary and like flexible and that sort of thing. But as I've grown older, my power and my force has really like been able to maintain my high level of play. So I'm going to naturally lean into my strengths on the field. And part of that is, being able to pick up a little heavier weight. And when you can do that, that translates over a bunch of different aspects of your life.
I'm just loving this episode because I'm selfishly just taking in every gem. I'm like, all right, apply that. Now, do you have a group of advisors, peers that you rely on collaborating on, that gives you support, like a mentorship group that like, look, because you grew up, you had all of that, your coach, Morris, and everyone helping you through the way. Do you have that right now?
So it's interesting. We started a mentorship program here with Adam Hoffman. He's the new CEO of Pinnacle Wealth, and he has very high EQ. He's well known in the family office circles around Western Canada. And so we did a mentorship program here in Calgary for the summer. I have 3 mentees, and I'm giving back, and I'm learning a lot actually about myself. What do these 3 young men want from me? They want to know some of the things that we're talking about today. How to be determined, how to be focused, how to sell. All 3 of them have the same desire to understand the sales process and how to do things efficiently. They're looking for some of the shortcuts and the cheat codes that we've built over time. But I think if you're in the sales mindset long enough, I'm doing it for almost 5 years now. Everybody's kind of got these tricks of the trade, as we'll call them. But when you're a young man or a young lady, they're just not known to you because you haven't heard no enough, and you haven't seen some things work. So you have kind of a blank canvas, which is good and bad. Good in that anything could happen. Bad in that you're going to waste a lot of time on things that won't work. But that's part of the process of improving yourself, and then you adjust and iterate. So when I think about who are my mentors here today, I would say I still have like some former coaches and champions in the polo ecosystem that I respect, and I listen to what they say. In the business arena, I would say I'm more in uncharted territory. It's difficult. People don't want to stick their neck out and give you bad advice, or maybe they just don't know, or maybe they're busy and they just can't help you anyways. I would say that the sports arena lends itself better to advice and mentorship because everyone can get unified around a goal of winning a championship or a game. Where in the business arena, winning money, it can't be the only goal. And the other goals are less tangible. They're less known. Like if you said, I want to have like superior client service, what does that really mean? Like, how do you give that? Like, how does your client feel about it? How is it measured? So it's more difficult, I think, for people to enter the business arena and mentor other people.
Yeah. With your mentorship group, I would like to learn more about this. Tell us more on like, can anyone join this mentorship group? What are they to expect from the mentorship process and all of that?
Yeah, so it's we did our first dinner the start of the summer here in June, and it was a wild success. We did it in Luca's Red Room, and we hosted 24 individuals. It was about, I think, 13 mentees, 10 mentors, and some support staff there. And it was interesting in that the mentees were very keen. They kind of knew what they wanted out of it. Some were looking for, marketing advice and mentorship, but most of them were looking for sales. I call it like training and advice, and just understanding that process, and also to understand like the general business arena of how to operate in Western Canada, and what does that mean, and what's it mean to fit into a professional organization in a business setting. Some were coming from a family business, so that has its own unique dynamics around nepotism, maybe management resentment, complex issues that are hard to discuss. And so I think for the first session that we did all together, we put a lot of what we'll call taboo subjects on the table and saying, like, we know these are out here and we will be talking about them this summer. And you're going to be, if you're a mentee, you're going to be sharing, your experience around some of these issues. And if you're a mentor, what your experiences are around some of these issues and what you've learned, what you can say, hey, in my history and my experience, here's what I've seen that's worked well, and here's some things I haven't seen work so well. So I think it's been a very important process for some of the mentees, and we started our first session the other day, and it was excellent. I mean, I have another one next week with my second mentee, and then the third one comes in from Toronto for the Stampede. So yeah, I think we're well underway. We don't have like a defined like skill or outcome that we're driving towards. I would say what we're trying to do is start a long-term process of saying, hey, we're going to have, self-betterment. That's really where everyone wants to go.
Yes.
We want to see, you with more clarity. We want to see you more determined. We want to feel that you're more confident. So if we capture those three traits through our sessions, then, the more tangibles will come out. Like, yes, I learned how to, be in a sales organization, or I learned how to write a qualified email. I learned how to, have an outreach program that's logical. Because we've all received emails like you look at it and you say, man, this is an illogical reach out. It's not well thought out. It's not engaging. Maybe it doesn't have the right phone number, or the link doesn't work, or whatever. So it's kind of, some of those like type of things. But when you're young and you don't have any experience, you don't even know that could be a thing to even watch out for.
True.
And so when you do have the experience, you're like, look, let's just make sure that we're focused on the best of the breed. Let's start there. Let's see why they're winning or why they're so successful. And then let's work our way backwards. And, let's see your process to start as somebody new in the industry. And then let's look at somebody who's an expert, and let's see if we can high grade you somewhere near, their capabilities by the end of, the summer, or the end of the year, or the end of, your schooling.
Yeah.
But no defined like finishing outcome, because I think mentorship and being a mentor or a mentee evolves over time.
Yes.
And it's probably a lifelong learning process, because you're sharing deep emotional topics, back and forth, giving and taking.
Okay, that's very good. As a family man, how do you balance driving forward in your career, right? Handling your polo career, polo business, your accelerate. How do you balance all of that, with the family? This is something I'm very curious about.
So I have a tremendously supportive wife, Kelsey. We actually had our 15th year anniversary last night.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a wonderful evening. And she's just really my star supporter. Since we first met, she's been traveling with me, going to Argentina the first year in 2005. And then we were married shortly after that, a few years after that. And I really can't do it without her, because she's, my emotional rock of support. She's my best friend. I love her. She's beautiful, and we just complete each other. So I think, you're
earning mad points right now. She's going to see it. She's like, oh my goodness.
Well, I found my partner early on, and I knew. So I would say that was probably my most important decision in my life, is finding Kelsey and picking right. And
how does one pick right? I got a lot of single friends that are killing it in business, and they struggle with that. How does one pick right?
I think I was lucky in a lot of ways that we met young. So I didn't have any like material possessions. I didn't have, wealth, even though my family was wealthy. Like personally, I didn't have wealth. I had great experiences and, a very easy life growing up, but didn't have anything. So I knew she wasn't in it for the money. We enjoyed being around each other. It was just fun. It was natural. And she was challenging. She wasn't easy to just go along with everything that I wanted to do. So that was, more fun when you have somebody challenge you, and like not challenge you in a mean way, but just challenge you in like kind of a competitive way, which was good. She's very sporty, as I am. So, that resonated well. And I just had this feeling like internally, I was like, man, she's cool. I like her and I want to be around her. And that never left me.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, I'm praying for all my friends that they get that same experience too. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. How do you channel personal energy and passion into productivity and success?
So I think one of the things I learned from very successful people is that they want it and they're going to take action immediately. And that means waking up early and just doing it. So I started waking up every day 6:15, and I try and get here to the office no later than 7:15. I try and get here for 7. And if not, I'm going to train in the morning, and I try and be on the bike at 6:30 or running on the pavement at 6:30. And if I do one of those 3 things, I will have a successful day because I'm motivated. I'm showing like I'm here, like I'm gonna go. And there's a lot of days that I don't feel like doing it. Like when it's raining and cold outside, I don't really want to jump on the bike, but I just start pedaling, and I could even have my eyes closed on the pedal bike, but I've started. And if you do that for 3-4 minutes, your body will just naturally warm up, and your eyes will naturally warm up because you start sweating a little. And so then you're like, okay, now I'm going to crank up the intensity, and now I'm going to start the workout. The first 3 or 4 minutes, you might have only pedaled like 200 meters or 150 meters. It doesn't really matter. But now you're ready to go. Like now you actually can say, okay, I'm going to do my normal workout or whatever. And you'll be so surprised, at like 7:10 when you're, 30 minutes, 40 minutes into your workout, you're going to say, wow, that passed quick, because, you weren't really awake to start the beginning, but you said, I'm doing one of these 3 things.
Yes.
So are you going to work out now, or on the bike or run, or are you going to go to the office? Because by the time you get to the office, you're going to be awake because you had to drive here, or you had to, if you took an Uber, you answer some emails, or if you took the bus or the train, somehow you had to get onto it. So by the time you actually get to the office, you're awake too.
Yeah.
You're ready to go. And if you start at 7, and a lot of people, they don't even up at 7, you have a big head start on people. Then all of a sudden, when you want to leave the office at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like if you didn't leave the office, you were there 8 hours. A lot of people, they got into the office like 8:15, 8:30, maybe even after that, take an hour lunch. By the time 4:30 comes along, they're wasted, tired, because they didn't get off to a fast start, and they got all these things piling up, and they couldn't get to it all. So they kind of give up. Then they don't even want to go and work out in the afternoon because they said I had such a long day. It took so long. So In Calgary in the summer, I mean, because it's so light here, like it's easier to get up obviously in the summer than in the winter. But I would say in the summer, you got to take advantage of the light hitting your face early and just get up and get to it. And it's hard to start, but how I started is going to bed earlier. You know, I think also being a family man with, 3 kids and Kelsey around, I don't thirst for the night. I like going out. It's fun, but I like to go out early. I like to kind of be home and in bed by no later than 10:30 if I can. And if I'm just not with much on, I'll be in bed at like 9:30. And I know it sounds like an old man, but, I feel fresh in the morning and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, you determine, you got your focus, right? And starting off with the small wins, right? Starting off with a win. You said you're hitting a bike or the pavement or a little bit of a workout, but some kind of a win to create that momentum, right, for a great day.
Definitely. I mean, I used to do the 100 push-up a day challenge.
Yeah.
And
everyone got on that this year.
Yeah, everyone got on. I did it a few years ago, and it was a good way to start. It's like you said, a quick win. Like it was like, no, before you were like, go in the shower, you're going to do 100 push-ups. Like if you got to go down, make a cup of coffee and then like come back and finish, or somehow, I don't care how you do it, get the 100 in. That started your day off like, bang, I already got 100 in. I'm good. Like I don't have, and I remember thinking that, especially because I had a friend of mine. He's like, yeah, I'm on it. And I got to do like 70 later today. And I'm like, oof, no, you're not going to be able to make 70, like you better do 20 like right now.
Yeah, you
like,
got to bang it out, man.
Like when are you going to do 70? It was already like in the afternoon. And I'm thinking
you gotta
like,
rip the Band-Aid, man.
Yeah. And I'm like, you just got to do it, man. Like you're thinking all day, you got to rip out, 70 and then you got to do 60 and then you got to do 40. And like, you're just never going to finish. Where in the morning I had already finished. It's like I already,
You got it done.
Yeah, I got it done.
You can think about the rest of your day.
Yeah, and it's a little bit like that in the gym for me. It's like training in the morning. Once it's out, then like the whole day you're walking around. And you don't even feel like the pain in your arms or your legs like by noon. You're like, that was a long time ago.
Exactly. And if you do feel it, you're proud of that pain because you earned it.
Exactly, right? You earned it. The gym is the most equitable place on the planet. Yes. If you put in 40%, you get 40%.
Yeah.
If you put in 90%, you get 90%.
1,000%.
And that's a big difference. Like with people maybe that are struggling on the motivation, say, okay, give me 100% of 5 minutes then.
Yes.
Give me 100% at 5 minutes and you will change your life, because the next time we get together, let's do 90% at like 7 minutes or 8 minutes. Like we're going to have to lengthen that out, and then you'll build on those wins. But the baseline, give me like 5 minutes, 100%, you can do it. Maybe you can't do an hour, but you can do 5.
No, that's so true. And I always tell clients this, and friends and family, is the 5-minute rule. Like if you don't feel like working out, just set a timer, 5 minutes, and just start. At the end of 5 minutes, if you still don't feel like working out, get out. But most likely you will get momentum. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm already sweating. I might as well do the workout, right? And also with food too, give yourself that 5-minute rule. It's 9:00 at night. You're going into the pantry. You open the door. Like I should probably grab this snack, especially when you have kids, right? There's always snacks. Like I should probably grab the snack, set a 5-minute timer, and just reflect. Am I really hungry right now? Or am I just craving something to eat? Or am I thirsty? That 5-minute rule works powerful when it comes to like decision making and getting things done. So I like that you said that too. Just give yourself 5 minutes.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And like the timer makes sense too, because then you take the time to actually reflect and be like, do I need this or do I just want this?
Yeah, being mindful of the decisions that we make, right? How do you train your subconscious mind to align with your goals? You talk about like at nighttime. Last night, your wife was like, hey, you talking out loud? That sounds like an example of that. But how do you train your subconscious mind to align with your goals?
Well, I think when you start on a path like I've been on here at Accelerate, I see where we want to go, and it's an A to B line in my mind. But realistically, business has all kinds of turns and obstacles and uphills and downhills. So you got to get ready for those. And if you have the overarching goal and, you're guiding light, but you have things in the way immediately, you got to focus on the things immediately that are right in your way. because tomorrow's coming. The day is coming tomorrow. I mean, the world is spinning. You got to get ready. So I try and just think about like what's happening tomorrow. And I'm thinking, okay, well, luckily tomorrow's Saturday. I got, totally white canvas. I can do whatever I want to do. But during the week when I'm here in the office, I start thinking, how are we going to get through this week in like a logical way? And it can be just, how you're transporting yourself around. Like if you got a business meeting on the other side of town and you got something else like downtown later in the day, but it's rush hour or traffic or whatever, and you got somebody maybe in a week that you're supposed to meet up with that's in the same part of the city, maybe you can kill two birds with one stone, being like, hey, I know we're meeting in a week, but I'm actually going to be in your neighborhood. Like if you're around, I'll stop by and say hello. Now you might not accomplish all the things that you wanted to accomplish in the meeting that's in a week, but you might get through like 50, 60, 70% of it, or you might learn something that's more targeted for your meeting that's there. So I try and find, ways where I can do things like an activity, but kill multiple objectives at the same time. And a good example of that would have been like today, I have a client in Standard Wealth, and I'm trying to get him, to be comfortable with the strategy. He's going to have a big exit, looks like on a real estate project. So I'm trying to like earn some of that capital to come back into our business. But at the same time, I ran into a commercial real estate agent and a guy who's excellent around CMHC financing. And I said, you know what? You should meet this gentleman at the same time. Why don't we all get together at the same time and we'll talk about what the synergies could be? Because I met this gentleman through a previous breakfast discussion that was hosted at Anderson's. And I thought, you know what? I think I can tie this two different conversations into one meeting in the same place, and everyone's going to become a winner from it, because my client in Standard Wealth learns about some unique financing options. This gentleman I met at Anderson's meets a potential client. I'm meeting with him, understanding his business as well, so I can keep my eyes and ears open for him in the future, so that he will also think for him in his way how to refer business and clients my way. Where if I didn't do it all together, I would have had to try two different locations. It would have eaten up my clock. I wouldn't have learned as much in like a live setting, the CMHC financier, trying to earn business from, my friend who's got the property development.
Yeah.
And I think everyone came out a big winner from it. And it wasn't uncomfortable, because I asked everyone, like, maybe we can all get together. And everyone would say, yeah, I would love to meet your friend. Sounds interesting. And we'll also talk about, what you're doing, Fred. And, it was more communal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not going to work. And, I've had some of those meetings where it doesn't work. And you got to say, I apologize. I thought this was going to be something else. I'll make it up to you. And, you march on. But most of the time, people are pretty collaborative and they understand that time is scarce. So can we utilize it efficiently and effectively?
Like something like that. What was that thought? Like, how did you learn to do stuff like that? I feel like naturally you hate wasting time, right? You try to make the most of everything, right? Was that thought to you, or you just adapted it? How did you make it sound simple, like, yeah, just do it like this. Maybe most people do it, right? But how did you cultivate that kind of process?
I think you learn from experience. We've all had good meetings and bad meetings. And, sometimes when you're in what I'll call the relationship management business that I think, most people are, you're going to have to take some meetings and some client engagements that are not ideal or efficient. So if you're going to have to take some of those, can you do it in a way where you minimize the time spent on that while also fulfilling the requirement of being the good corporate citizen that you got to be?
Yes.
And do it in a way where it's like, I'll actually help you. Then it'll be better if we're in a group setting than if we were one-on-one. Because one-on-one, I've already determined I can't really help you.
Yeah.
Like as soon as I met with the commercial financier, I was like, I can't help you actually. And you can help me, but you're not going to help me until you trust me. So let me help you. I'll show you I'm competent. I'll steer you into business. Just trust me. If the first coffee doesn't go well with this gentleman who has the apartments and the property division of his company, I will say, I'm sorry. I thought that was going to be a hit. It wasn't a hit. I'm willing to take the chance if you are. And he said, yeah, I'll meet with them. It sounds like it's going to be logical. I said, perfect. And he knew without me saying it that there's probably not a way that we can do business directly.
Yes. Wow, that's masterful. Like I love that aspect that you've talking about, and I think people can learn that more in your mentorship process that you guys do. Is that open for everybody or?
It is open for everybody. If you want to get involved with it, just shoot me a note or shoot Andreas a note, and yeah, we'll put everyone together and we'll have a consultation and see.
But first, you got to go through Hell Week with me. If you can make it through Hell Week, then you can get to Fred.
That sounds like fun. I wouldn't mind taking Andreas up on that. I know with you being in the shape you are, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, it will be a nice challenge, and I'll do it with a smile on my face the whole time. Now, do you rely on intuition when making decision?
Yeah, I do rely on my gut, and I think it served me well. We all have instincts that you should listen to, because sometimes we know things that are correct, but we can't identify why, or we know when things are dangerous, but we don't know why, but we sense something. And so listening to my gut has served me well. I think specifically around staying out of trouble on a few things where I just didn't quite get a warm feeling from the group or the people I was interfacing with. And it sounded good, but it didn't quite all add up. And I just thought, like, this isn't my area of expertise, and I'm not going to be able to be as qualified to make a great decision on this. And I don't need to really do this. Like, opportunities come and go, and I'm just not fully understanding all the complexities of this opportunity. And so I passed. Or another example of, I'm just not sure about this business group. We don't really need to do business with them. And that served us well, because I think the world is full of prospects and there's lots of capital out there. Some of it, unfortunately, comes from not great places.
Yes. And it's more important to decline than to force yourself and do business with something that you don't align with.
Yeah, it's difficult though, because when you're starting, the shiny new opportunity can be enticing when it's hard to get going. So
yes,
I understand, it's easier if you have a successful business to be choosy. And that's not exactly what I'm saying. All I'm saying is, I had the sense that something wasn't quite adding up, and I think that was a good decision.
I got a serious question. All of the other questions are serious, but this one I'm very curious on what your answer is. One, have you ever fell out of intuition? Like, when you just got that gut sense on things, right? Like you said, right? I don't know about this, or I feel that this feels right. So I'll lean more into this. Have you ever fell out of intuition that you weren't quite sure you were hearing, or you were kind of in that confused spot? No? Or
I'll go back to, being the Pisces I am and the cold-blooded fish. I'm usually sure-footed. So not that I haven't made mistakes, but would like to think at least malleable enough to realize when I have made some mistakes that sometimes you gotta, put your hands together and say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I didn't anticipate the outcome, or the outcome's a surprise. I'm ready to look at it in a new light if you're still willing to, look at it in a new light with me.
Yeah.
Sometimes those opportunities come and go and you can't, take them back. But generally, I've been more than satisfied with my decision making when my intuition has told me to go one way or another.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. And now, do you believe in God, a higher power? What do you believe in? This is a personal question.
Yeah, I think that there's something else out there. I don't know what it is. I think we call it God. I don't know what it is though. And I'm still on my journey trying to understand where we fit into everything. What I can tell you is when you look outside, it looks too perfect. It looks too good. And there's something else going on. I don't know what it is. And I'm trying to understand that and get more in tune with that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still searching.
Yeah, we're all searching. No, that's awesome, man. Now, the last question I have for you, Fred, you've been so kind with your time. If you could, and I want you to take your time with this advice, okay? If you could give yourself, or anyone out there that is starting off in business, like you did 6 years ago with the accelerator, or someone that's starting off in their sporting endeavors, right? If you could give a strong piece of advice that they could apply in their life today and would make a serious difference and help them achieve success, what would that advice be?
Well, you want to be determined, and you're only going to be determined if you're interested and curious and have passion. So find your passion, find out where you want to spend your time and energy, and work backwards off that. So if it's not on the sporting field, because generally the sporting field is something like you've earned the right to be on and you've done it a very long time. If it's in the business arena, I would say find out where your passion is. And that's broad. Like, business can be a lot of different things. So, if you like being, in the service side of retail, find out where the opportunity is there that you think you could excel. Where's your skill set landing up? I mean, I got a few friends, they went to school for, chemical engineering, and now they're in like sales and marketing because they just didn't know what to study at school. Mm-hmm. And so, that was nothing against them, or it's not even a bad decision, but they would have been better served by taking a little bit more time and thinking about where they want to be and what they want to do and where their energy and passion is going to be, going forward. For me, I didn't know it was going to be in sales. It just came because it had to be. It was like either we figure this out or the company's going to go broke. And so my passion was generated out of necessity in some ways. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, hey, I'm not bad at this. I started not great. I mean, I got on the do not call list a few times. I got, hung up quite a few times. Lots of emails not even opened. But over time, you iterate, you find out, who's doing it better. You understand why they're doing it better. You get your own emails from unsolicited offers and you say, that's a good idea. They wrote this well. This is intelligent. I'm going to utilize some of that content. So my passion came because I enjoyed winning, and I like seeing the results of, hey, we are winning clients. That's fun. And that's why I like capital markets. You find out through the market every day, who's winning, who's losing. You can see if the stock price is up or down. So you're getting that scoreboard at the end of the day, every single day, which is fun.
Yeah. How does one find their passion? I feel like that's something somebody would say if they're watching it. Like, how do I find my passion? Like, I like doing this. I like doing that. I like a little bit of this.
Well, I think start with the easy stuff. What don't you like doing? I mean, I remember I was working in a water company selling an undifferentiated product where you won business off RFPs, and I couldn't influence the price. I couldn't really influence the proposal process, and so I didn't have any value to add, really. I mean, I was just like a dialer, trying to find out what people are doing, and then we'll send you a proposal. But I couldn't enhance the value proposition, really. So I realized really early, after about 90 days, I was like, I don't want to do this. I mean, I'll finish out the term here, but this is tough sledding, and I don't want any more of this than I have to. I did a stint in an internship in an energy company, and I was like, after about 2 days, I was like, I don't like this at all. This is not for me. I don't know how to even work this computer on the AccuMap. I worked in a construction company for an internship, and we were doing some estimating, and I was like, I don't like this at all. So, there's 3 world examples of things I was like, just cross those off the list. I don't need to revisit those ever again. I'm glad I did them because I learned what I don't want to do. And, I joined Accelerate because for the reasons I've already shared, I wanted to manage other people's money and manage the portfolio, but I had to develop a more diverse skill set because it was required. And then I found out I enjoyed it. It was like, I'm actually okay at this. I'm learning how to be better at this. I'm enjoying the process of winning business. It can be fun, but I didn't know it was going to be fun at the start. I just had to get into it and see, it was the emperor. Was it good at it? And did I enjoy it, or was I bad at it and not enjoy it?
Yeah. That, and I know I said that was my last question, but I want to touch on this one last question here and see. So it seems like you were good at knowing when to pivot, right? You started your clothing business. You're like, all right, pivot. Sometimes some people might still be grinding a little. Yeah, I'm optimistic it's gonna happen. How can a businessman or someone that's career driven, how do they know? How do you make your decision? All right, it's time to pivot. I know you're like, okay, I don't enjoy this. I don't like this. But how do you know when to pivot?
Well, I knew those 3 opportunities were with a defined outcome because the summer was going to finish and that was going to be it. So that helped me keep on going because I gave my word that I would finish out the term.
Harsh deadline.
Harsh deadline. But I knew that was going to be the end. And so the pivot was already kind of prearranged. I would say in the clothing business, when I realized that it was just going to be too hard to compete. Like I went to a few these meetings where you show the clothes and then they start asking questions like, could you bring us, 10,000 shirts across Canada? And I'm like, no, like I can't do that in red, black, blue, white, gray, extra small, medium, large, extra large. That's 125 different combinations. And if you sell one, you got to probably order like another set. So the complexities of that business, I realized at one point I just wasn't equipped for, and I didn't have the capital for it. Neither did I have the team, and the team I had didn't have the expertise to execute. So I was fighting way too many big battles there. And one day I was just like, I can't win here. It's not that I quit. I took the inventory and I said, I'm going to hold on to this inventory. And then when opportunities came up, I rebranded it. So like the Accelerate clothing we have all came from my previous venture there. I did a film fund. We branded it all from there. The Polo team that we have, all the Alegria stuff came from there. So it's like, yeah, I had all this inventory and like, did I sell it? No. But did I use it? Yes.
You don't waste.
I don't waste.
You don't waste.
I mean, I made mistakes, but I try and, turn it into something positive.
Yes. Well, brother, I want to thank you so much for taking the time, giving us game. I've enjoyed this thoroughly, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you very much for having me, Andres.